Well, hey everyone, I hope that you had a Merry Christmas, and as you look forward to your new year, I hope that it's a great new year of 2025. If we haven't met before, my name is Justin Domino, and I'm the lead pastor of New Hope Community Church. I want to welcome you today, and as we celebrate Christmas, as we look forward to the new year, I think a lot of us are thinking of our New Year's resolutions, and who are we going to be in 2025? But I want to encourage you in this, as we look at New Year's resolutions, as you look at trying to become a better person or getting healthier, I think one of the problems that we have is a lot of times we start really strong in January, but come February, come March, our resolutions and our dedication to them sort of dies off. And I don't mean to be like, hey, a Debbie Downer when it comes to your resolutions, but it's sort of something it's true, right? Gyms are full in January and they start to trickle out and empty in February and March. And I think part of the problem behind that is we don't necessarily think of the type of people that we want to become. We just think of doing tasks. We think of changing ourselves, right? We want to get healthier, we want to get more disciplined or dedicated, we want to get promoted, and so we take steps to do these things. But I think a bigger question for us, or a better question for us to ask ourselves is not just what do I want to do this year, but who do I want to become? Setting that vision and setting that mindset of in 5 years, who do I want to become as a human being? And I think if you set that goal of becoming somebody rather than just simply doing something, we start to get this idea that we have a much bigger vision for our future of who God is calling us to be. And this reminds me of a proverb, Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10. And I think that this is a great resolution for us all, rather than focusing on just simply tasks to get done this year, but to focus on the types of things that I want to do and who I want to become. We find that in Proverbs chapter 9, it says this: "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding." And I love that proverb because it shows that in everything that we do, the starting point that we have is we want to fear the Lord and obey Him. You know, a lot of times in Christianity today, we talk about how following Jesus is more about a relationship than it is about a religion, which I'm 100% in agreement with. But I think in that conversation, we leave behind the importance and the value of being obedient to God and fearing God as He is the authority. He's the one that we're following. We're not following our own hearts, our own ideas, or our own vision. We're trying to follow Jesus. We're trying to follow God as He is the one who is above all things. He is supreme. So I want to give you 3 areas as you look at becoming a better person or becoming a more devoted follower of Jesus. I want to look at 3 areas: your time, your talent, and your treasure, of how you can become a more devoted follower of Jesus in 2025. The first one I want to look at is time. And I want to look at how are you prioritizing your time with the fear of the Lord and being obedient to God in mind. I think that this is really important to look at because in our current digital age, one of the biggest things that, whether it's Facebook or Netflix or Instagram, what they're trying to do, they're trying to steal your time and steal your attention. And you know this, you've seen documentaries on it. You've heard people talking about screen time and how the average American is like 7 hours a day, which is mind-boggling. And kids, they're even more. But I think in order to redeem our time with the focus of, I want to fear the Lord and live in obedience to Him, we have to look at how are we spending our time. Are we doing things that actually matter? Are we doing things that God has called us to do? Are we becoming a better person? Or do we find ourselves binge watching too much Netflix or doom scrolling on social media too much? But redeeming our time where we're living out the purpose and the vision that God has for us. I also think it's important for this. There's a lot of families that'll be watching this today. So I think it's important for you, if that's your case and you've got maybe a couple of kids and you got a busy life going on right now, you got dance class and basketball and hunting and all these different things. When we're talking about time, in order to live in the fear of the Lord and obedience, I think we got to talk about how do we set up regular rhythms of rest and recovery. I think it's so important with how busy we've become that we get so exhausted doing so many different things. And the Old Testament wisdom that I think can still apply to us today in different unique ways is the Old Testament people, they took a Sabbath day. Once a week, they took 24 hours of total rest. They shut off technology, they got in their homes, they didn't walk too much, they didn't cook too much. They did the most important things, which was spending time in prayer, spending time in the Bible, spending time together. And that was a refreshment for their soul. And I think maybe for you, you're thinking like, that's great for them, but my life is so different. I'm too busy. I can't take a full day. What I would encourage you to do is, Well, start small. You have to start somewhere. So maybe it's taking one evening a week. Maybe it's taking a morning a week where you can spend a couple of hours. It's just you and the kids or you and the wife, and you're just hanging out, you're resting, you're recovering, and you're not distracted by work or technology or anything else. But God has a system. God has a design for how the world is supposed to function, and part of that design is rest. And if we're not taking it, then we're living against the grain of what God has designed for us. The second area I think that we have to look at in our lives as we look forward to 2025, living in obedience to God, is our talent. You know, how many of us, we have gifts where we have an opportunity, whether it's to serve the church, to serve in our community, or just to serve in God's kingdom in some sort of way. And yet we find ourselves incredibly busy and incredibly tired. So we're going to work, we're coming home, we're cooking dinner, and we just sort of go through this rhythm of we're exhausted and we're going through this daily mundane rhythm when God has called us to be a part of His church, His community, and His kingdom. So I would encourage you to, I'm not going to challenge you to say, hey, once a week, get out and serve. You're probably really busy. But what I would encourage you to do is to sit down, maybe your wife and your kids, and say, okay, kids, once a quarter or 2 times this year, we're going to make an opportunity, whether it's to go to Feed My Starving Children or just to serve together in the church or serve together at the Shalom Shop in Cambridge, whatever it might be. But what are ways where you can build in these rhythms of serving using your talent to better and grow God's kingdom? I think in order to live in obedience to God, in order to live in awe of the power and the presence of God, to fear the Lord means to put our faith in action. It's not merely something that we believe, that's a starting point, but to put our faith in action is a huge part of our faith. The last area of your life I think that would be encouraging for you to look at would be, how are you spending your treasure? And what I mean by that is your finances and your possessions. You know, we look at 2025 and a lot of us might be thinking, hey, I want to be better at sticking to my budget. I want to spend money wiser. I want to save more. I want to invest more. I want to do all these things. But unless you put it down on paper, start a budget and follow it in the way that God has designed it to be, then we're always going to be following either our fears or our idols. You know, it's often said that if you look at somebody's bank account, you can kind of see what their gods are, whether it's coffee or Target runs or whatever. And hey, I love Caribou too, so I'm right there with you. But the point is this: if we want to live in the fear of the Lord, then how we spend our money and how we use our possessions that we have is really important. And I think that this is key kind of in the conversation of family too. You know, you might have really young kids, you might have teenagers, but when you start these conversations of generosity and budgeting at an early age, you build in the spiritual formation rhythm into your kids that, hey, when it comes to money, a paycheck isn't just ours. This is something that's given to us from God. We're here to steward it really well and be responsible with what God has given us. So we're going to give some, we're going to save some, and we're going to spend some, and here's what this looks like. So one thing that we've done with our kids are 6 and 2, so they're very little. But anytime they get a new toy, we go down to the basement, we go down to the toy room in our house, and we pick out another toy that we're ready to give away. If you're gonna get a new toy, you gotta give one away. Not only is this a secret to decluttering your home, there you go, free tip, but it also teaches your kids this unique way of generosity, that one toy that they may or may not play with that much anymore is an opportunity to bless another kid. When it comes to your money, when it comes to your possessions, how are you not only blessing the church, but blessing your family and blessing those in need? Now I want you to look at these 3 areas: time, talent, and treasure, under the category, under the umbrella of I want to fear the Lord and live in obedience to Him. And I would bet that if you follow in these categories, and maybe add some of your own personal categories to these, other than time, talent, and treasure, maybe there's something else that God's putting on your heart. But if you're going to commit to becoming this person who lives in the fear of the Lord and obeys Him, then I think that there's a lot of blessings in store for you. That doesn't mean that you're going to be healthy, wealthy, and rich, but I'm curious to see, and I would love to hear how God blesses you in 2025. Whether that is in health, or whether that's in your kids, or there's various ways in which God can bless you. I would love to hear those powerful stories. But I would encourage you with this: as you look forward to 2025, don't merely look at just the tasks that you want to complete. Look at the person that you want to become. Who is God calling you to be? And when you set that vision of who, for me, for example, who Justin Domino wants to be in 2025, and who Justin Domino wants to be in 2030. What do I need to do? What are the steps that I need to take? For me, the big umbrella under that is fear the Lord, obey Him, and what is He calling me to do? I hope and I pray that you have a wonderful 2025, and I'll see you back at church next week.